Hello, YouTube friends and family. I am Texas Beach Mom or Mama Robin, whichever you prefer. And I want to wish y'all a happy Halloween. And every Halloween, I tell a ghost story, paranormal story, something that happened to me. And if you don't believe in paranormal, that's fine. If you believe in the paranormal but think I'm crazy or full of shit, that's also fine. If you don't believe in any of it, maybe you'll just find it entertaining. Who knows? So we're not going to do these stories in order that they happened. We're going to do them from least scary to most scary. There's 3. And with each story, I'm going to give you a little bit of background because I feel like background's necessary. The history, the preface, all of it's, I feel like it's necessary, but it might not be. So just bear with me while I tell my paranormal stories, okay? Okay. And again, even if you don't believe in it, maybe it's entertaining. So this first one was not very scary at all. I can't find a lot. I can't even say it's paranormal. There is no logical explanation for it because I'm one of those people. I will look for the logical explanation in things. I can't help myself. I just don't. I'm like, when something happens, it's weird, doesn't fall into place, I'm like, oh goodness, or something. No, I start looking for something logical, scientific. So the first one takes place a few years back. I would say about 7 years ago. Yeah, about 7 years ago. And like I said, we're going from least to most. And me and my family were renting a trailer. And it was during the school year, so my kids were at school that day. And actually, no, my youngest one was in school, my oldest one was at work. Was at school, and my husband was out of state. He was in another state working. So I was home alone. And I mean, there was a couple guns in the house and stuff. But really, the only protection I felt like I needed for the most part around there was my dog. I had a great big 130-pound Great Pyrenees. I don't know if you know what one of those look like. Google them. They're beautiful dogs. Good dogs. But anyway, so I had this trailer. And in the living room of this trailer was like little cubbies. Like what pre-K kids or kindergarten kids stick their shoes in. These were little cubbies. And this little cubby was about a foot away from the futon. And I was sitting in the futon watching TV. And like these cubbies are about a foot away. And earlier that week, I'd bought 2 new pairs of shoes. I had bought a pair of Nikes and a pair of Skechers. They were brand spanking new. I think I'd only worn the Skechers once by this point. And I had both of them out of the box, and they were sitting in their little cubbies. I am one of these people that I'm a firm believer that everything has a place. Place for everything in its place. Like, that's me. So, I had these shoes sitting in the cubby, and I'm sitting on the futon, and I'm about a foot away from this cubby, not far distance. This was a small place. It was barely enough room for all of us. But like I said, he was away working out of state. The kids, during the day, it was fine. And the dog was laying, I had the futon open like a bed, and the dog was laying behind where I was sitting. And he was always right next to me. The dog was always right next to me. And that's another reason why I'm not so sure this is paranormal, because I don't have an explanation. Dogs are usually pretty, they can usually sense things. And he didn't react funny. So to this day, I don't have an explanation for this. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So I was sitting on the futon, I was watching TV, and the right shoe of the pair of Skechers come flying out of this cubbyhole and landed right by me. So it came out of the cubbyhole and landed about a foot away from the cubbyhole. My first rational thought was, well, my first question in my head was, how the fuck did that happen? And then I start going through rational process. Was it maybe a big mouse? Maybe a mouse pushed it? Like it was messing around in the cubbyhole and it pushed it out? No, a mouse isn't big enough probably to even push it out. And even if it did, it wouldn't have gone like a foot away. So I thought, well, maybe it wasn't a mouse, it was a rat. Some rats get really big. Would it be enough strength to push it out of the cubby? Probably. Would it be enough strength for it to be a foot away? I don't think so. But that was the only explanation I could come up with in my head. So, with that being said, I got up and I checked the cubby for like a chew hole in the cubby, in the back wall of the cubby. I was looking for that chew hole where a rat or a mouse or something may have chewed through and pushed it. I don't even have an explanation for why it would do it. Now, nothing scary happened to me before that, and nothing scary happened after that. And I didn't imagine it. Like, I was fully awake. The dog looked up towards the cubby hole when it landed, when it came flying out. But then he put his head back down, like, okay, well, show's over, let's go back to sleep. So I don't know what it was. I don't have a logical explanation. I wasn't dreaming. I was wide awake. It was like 2:00 in the afternoon. I guess my oldest one was at work. My youngest one was at school. The husband was away on a trip, and I was home alone when it happened, so I have no witnesses. No explanations. So that's the first one. The second one is a little bit scarier, and I have witnesses. So about a year after that happened, we moved into a duplex, a much bigger place. We moved into a duplex. And this one's going to need a little bit more backstory. So we moved into a duplex, and it wasn't a side-by-side duplex. It was an upstairs, downstairs, and the upstairs was vacant. And it was at the end of a dead-end street, and you had kind of a gravel path or gravel drive that led to the front, to the porch. And there was a big concrete slab porch that was it was the entire length of the front of the house. And I would say a good 6 feet out. So it was a big old concrete slab front porch. But I point out the fact that there's a gravel drive for a reason. So put a pin in that. It was a gravel drive. So when people pulled up, you heard the crunch of the gravel. And my husband was like a Comcast, a cable installer. And ex-husband now, but husband then, was a cable installer. And you had to show up at the same time every day, and you would get a list of jobs to do. And you didn't have a set schedule per se, typically. But you were given a list of jobs to do. When you were done, you were done. You couldn't leave until you were done, unless you called unless there were circumstances or something. Now, sometimes if he was in the area and he was in between jobs, like he had time to wait in between, like he finished this job at 1, but he couldn't be till the next one till 2 or whatever, and he was in the area, he'd pop in for lunch. So it was normal for him to pop in. So when he would And the other thing I need to preface is the front door on that, you had to shut it hard to get it to catch. So it was loud when you shut it. Okay, so we got the gravel drive, we got the front door, and we got the fact that I know the sound of his truck or work van over anything else. Like, I knew his work van from anybody else's vehicle, just like any spouse. Like, if you're married to somebody, you know what the sound of their car or truck sounds like when they pull up. You know them over anybody else's. So we got a gravel drive, got an engine, and we got a front door that you got to shut kind of hard, and it's loud when you do. So with all that being said, oh, and when he would come home for lunch at the end of the day, whenever, as he would come in the door and shut the door, he would say, "Hey," a shortened version of "Hey, honey, I'm home." And I would always greet him, turn to greet him, walk up to greet him, whatever, with, "Hi, darling," or "How was your day?" or something. But he always just said, "Hey." It was a very brief "hey," but I knew what he meant. It was, "Hey," like, "Hey, honey, I'm home." So one day, it was in the summertime, and so it had been about 9 months after that last place. We're pretty new into this place. So about 9 months after that experience, we had a different experience. So on this particular day, my youngest was next door our landlord lived on the property next door, but it was a lot of land. So their house was a little bit away from us. We were like just on this one big property, and their house was a little bit down the hill from us, but we were both still at the end of a dead-end street. So my youngest was down at the landlord's playing with their grandkids. And my daughter was home, because like I said, it was summertime, and she was in her bedroom. Reading, napping. I doubt she was napping. Reading, playing on her tablet, something. She was in the bedroom. And she was very specifically waiting for her stepdad to come home, because she needed to talk to him about something. I don't remember what it was now. I mean, she had told me, but I don't remember what it was now. So she was kind of like, like when kids need to talk to you, how they're just kind of waiting for you to come home. She was doing that. So she was waiting for him to come in the door. And I said, "Whatever you do, don't pounce on him when he first walks in the door. Give him a minute to breathe before pouncing on him." Which didn't take my advice. But anyway, so when you walked in to the front door, there was this big kitchen dining room, this giant room, like big giant room. And it was a kitchen dining room. Like there were sinks and counters on one end at the far end. And then there was refrigerator and all that. And the other end was by the windows where we put our dining room table. So it was a big area, a big spacious area. And so if I'm at the sink doing dishes, my back is to the front door, like almost directly in front of the front door. So me and the daughter had just finished lunch, and I was washing off the dishes and putting them in the drain board. And so my back was to the front door. And all I heard was, "Hey," like in my husband's voice, like, "Hey, I'm home." And in that moment, it didn't cross my mind that I didn't hear the engine, I didn't hear the crunch of gravel, and I didn't hear the door shut, but I did hear the "hey." And as I turned to face him to say, "Hi, darling," or whatever, and it was lunchtime, and he occasionally came home, or sometimes he had an early day. But anyways, I turned to face him. He wasn't there. Now, at the same time, while my daughter was sitting in the bedroom, kind of waiting for him to come home, she had come rushing out of the bedroom at the same time that I turned to face him. And she said, "Where's stepdad?" I mean, to keep his name out of it, that's just what we call him, stepdad, for this. She said, "Where's stepdad?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, what do you mean you don't know? He just said, hey, he's home somewhere. And I went, do you see him? And she said, no, but I very distinctly heard him say, hey. And I said, I did too. And she went, what? I said, I did too, but he's not here. I don't know what to tell you. She looked frustrated and confused, and I apparently did too. So, nothing more was said about it. She went back to her room. And later on that evening, I asked him, I said, did you come home earlier today, like around lunchtime, and maybe step in the front door and realize you had to leave, realize something was up and you had to leave, and then turned around and went back out? And he went, no. I said, are you certain? He's like, no, I haven't been home. I said, you didn't come home at any time today before now and say, hey. And he looked at me like I was stupid and said, no. It clicked in my head after he said that come to think of it, I didn't hear the crunch. I didn't hear his engine as it come down the road. I didn't hear the crunch of the gravel, and I didn't hear the door shut. I just heard, hey. But I'm not alone because my daughter heard it too. And her and I never talked about it really after that, but I think about it sometimes. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck it was. I will tell you this much. Believe me or don't believe me. Previous to that happening, both my kids had told me that they would see shadows in their room at night. Now, their one and only bedroom window was behind their TV set. The TV set was at the end of the beds, and the window was behind the TV set. And it always had the blind closed. And it faced out into the backyard, and a little bit further into the backyard was a wooded area, but there was a street light. So there would be light in the backyard. So they had told me before in the past that they had seen shadows in the bedroom. And that they both had complained about having really bad dreams. The first time they told me they saw shadows, I said, honey, it's got to be something in the backyard. You know, your window faces out to the backyard. And they're like, what? So people are roaming around in our backyard at night? And I'm like, no, it's got to be, you know how you do sometimes with kids, especially someone like me who tends to, excuse me, look for the most logical explanation. I will admit that I never seen shadows, and they claim they did, but I will admit that all four of us had problems with bad dreams there. Even my husband, who did not believe in this stuff and didn't normally have bad dreams, and if he did, he didn't remember them, was having very vivid bad dreams because him and I had discussed them. So there was that time. There was that time. That one, after things started, and another thing about that house is that duplex is, I know we all have moments where we think we put something down somewhere and it's not there, and you're thinking, where the fuck did I put it? And you find it later. This happened a lot in this house, and I'm not like that. I occasionally forget that my glasses are on top of my head, but not very often. I need to trim my hair. Not very often. Most of the time I know where my glasses are at. I know where my hairbrush is at. Things like that. This happened a lot in this house. But I just chalked it off to memory failure. But it was happening to the kids too, and my husband. Like, he would lay a screwdriver down and say, where's that screwdriver just put down? I'm like, I don't know. We didn't live there very long. I think we lived there not even a year. I'd say about 6 months. So that's it for that one. And the third and final one, the scariest thing I've ever been through in my entire life. Let's go way back in the Wayback Machine. And let's preface by telling you that I have a brother that's 12 years younger than me. And he had a best friend that was 6 years older than him, so therefore 6 years younger than me. So if my brother was 16, that would have, because would have made me 28, and it would have made his friend 22. Now I don't remember how my 16-year-old brother met and made friends with this guy that was already an adult. And I don't think my parents realized he was that old when they first met him. They would have said something. But all three of us did work together at the same fast food restaurant. And we all worked pretty much the same shift, and we usually had the same days off together. Management was pretty cool. They knew that we hung out together a lot. And because I was going through my first divorce, and I did have an apartment of my own, and my brother liked to get out of the house once in a while away from mom and dad, like most teenagers. He doesn't want to hang out with mom and dad all the time. Him and his friend would come over usually on Saturday nights. Almost every Saturday night, I could count on them coming over to my apartment, showing up my apartment, and we would order pizza like Pizza Hut, and we would go Blockbuster and rent movies. Or sometimes if we didn't have enough money to do both, we would order the pizza and maybe try to watch creature features on TV and shit. Okay? And I had 2 couches. I didn't have any chairs, but I had 2 couches in my living room across from each other. And one would sleep on one couch and one would sleep on the other, and I had a bedroom on the other side of the living room. But anyway, I digress. So, I was 28 back then, and I'm 61 now. It's been a few years, but I still remember this, and I remember it well. So, and sometimes they would come over on Friday night and do Friday night, Saturday night, and go home on Sunday. But most of the time, they just came over on like Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. We would stay up late Saturday night, eating pizza and watching movies, and then Sunday morning I would fix them breakfast, and then after breakfast they would go back home. And my mom didn't mind because, number one, I was like 3 miles from the house, and number two, she trusted my brother. Number three, she trusted me. She trusted he was safe in my home. So if he said, I'm going to go to his house and spend the night, she was like, all right. She also knew that she could come by my apartment or call at any given time and would want to speak to him, and he better be right there. But they would come over every Saturday night without fail, unless there was a family, something on one of their ends, they were there. I enjoyed the company. I got to where I was pretty good friends with his friend too. Even though my brother and I are 12 years apart, and me and his friend were 6 years apart, I was really close to my brother. Like I looked out for him, and we were buddies. He liked hanging out at my apartment. So that was literally, it was an every Saturday night thing. Every Saturday night, and sometimes, as I said, Friday and Saturday night together. Well, I'm originally from Kansas City. So this was all happening in Kansas City, Missouri. And in Kansas City, and you can look it up, you can Google it if you choose to, there's a park called Swope Park. SWOPE, Swope Park. And it's many thousand acres of park. Like, it's thousands and thousands of acres of park. Because it also encompasses the Kansas City Zoo. And it also encompasses an amphitheater, an outside amphitheater called Starlight Theater. And then the rest of it, there's also a big lake out there. The rest of it is just wooded area with picnic tables and those, the old concrete slab picnic tables and the old concrete slab benches. Anybody seen those before? Look them up, or you can find a picture of them. Anyway, there was clearings with those scattered about, and there was usually had a big metal trash can, and usually that were rusted out, and you would usually have a grill to cook on. So they had it set up pretty decent. But Kansas City, that part of Kansas City was not a good neighborhood by the time we were adults. It was a decent neighborhood from what I understand when I was a little kid, because my dad used to take me there. But as an adult, I know it wasn't good. As a matter of fact, they were constantly dredging that lake for dead bodies. That apparently was a dumping ground. They would dump cars, bodies, whatever. And another thing that was going on in Kansas City at this time, so not only was this just a high crime area, we were in the middle of satanic panic. Rumors of devil worshiping was going on in that area. Specifically in certain parts of Swope Park. And so we were, like I said, Swope Park is this ginormous park. Many, 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 many acres. Most of it pretty wooded. Some clearings. And Swope Park, that particular area, was reasonably safe during the day. I wouldn't want to be there at night for nothing. And again, not only was it just not a safe part of town, there was rumors of Satan worshiping going on in the park. Who knows? I don't know. So, one Saturday night, my brother and his friend are there. And they are there to spend the night. And we've already eaten pizza and we've already watched a movie or two. And they were talking to each other about going to Swope Park. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And they were talking about going to Swope Park. I'm like, why on earth do you all want to go to Swope Park? Well, we heard there's devil worshippers out there. We want to go look around. And I said, no, absolutely not. You're not going. And his friend looked at me and goes, I'm 22 years old and you can't stop me. And I looked at my brother and I said, well, then you ain't going. He said, yeah, I am. And I said, no, you are not going. You are my responsibility when you're here and you're not going. And he said, you can't physically stop me. I could not stop him. To give you an example of him, at that time, I was obviously a lot thinner than I am now, and I'm only 5'3". My brother's 6 foot and was an amateur bodybuilder, and his muscle, he was just very muscular, very tall, very muscular, very strong. So I physically couldn't stop him, and he obviously wasn't listening. So I said, you can't go. I told him, I said, you can't go. Mom and Dad will have my head on a platter if you go. And he said, if you're that worried about it, go with us. I said, I don't want to go. And I can't believe you guys want to go. And they're like, well, we're going. You can stay here and wait for us to get back, or you can go with us. If you're that worried about it, go with us. So after some hemming and hawing, I said, fine, let's go. If you guys are going to do this, I'll go ahead and go. That way I can maybe be the rational adult in the situation. So we all piled into his friend's car. And mind you, this was way before the internet. There was no cell phones, no nothing. So what we had was 2 dummies. Okay, 3 dummies. 3 stooges. Each one of them had their own pocket knife, and I got the flashlight out of the glove box of his friend's car. So they were each armed with a pocket knife, and I was armed with a flashlight. Now, it was one of the bigger, heavier ones. Like, if you hit somebody over the head with it, it'd probably knock them out. But I wanted light, because it was pitch black outside. And I wanted a little bit of protection, so we get to a section of the park, and I don't know what section of the park we were in, so don't ask. Because like I said, it was many thousands of acres big. And we get to the park, and we park along the curb, and we get out, and like I said, each idiot's armed with a pocket knife, and I'm armed with a flashlight. And it was about Oh, let's see, it was about 11, about 12 o'clock when we left. It was probably about 12:30, quarter to 1 when we got there and parked. I don't know exactly. But we had trudged upwards. This, where he parked out, was at the bottom of a hill, and we were trudging upwards. And I don't know why they wanted to go to this day. I don't know why they picked this particular part of the park. I have no idea what those two had, if they had planned any of this out in advance or what was going on. I always thought that maybe they were going to take me out there and prank me. You know what I'm saying? And I think shit went wrong and they didn't get to prank me. Or maybe they did get to prank, but if this was prank, this was elaborate, and it backfired on them as well. But anyway, so we're trudging for about 15 minutes up this hill, and we go to cross this creek or stream or brook or whatever it is. I don't know that there's 3. And whatever it was, about 2 foot wide, about a foot deep. Water rushing down over the rocks and stuff. And fed out to the lake. So we trudged along for about 15 minutes, and then we crossed this stream or whatever, and we trudged along for about another 15 minutes, and we come to this clearing. Oh, by the way, it's a full moon night. So we come to this clearing, and there was this giant boulder, and we're talking boulder, like picnic-sized table, like picnic table size boulder. And it had a relatively flat top for being a boulder. And I was shining a flashlight on it, and I saw candles on the ground all around it. I saw bones. I don't know if they were people bones, dog bones, chicken bones, what kind of bones, but there was bones scattered on the ground around the candles. And I saw a reddish brown substance on the rock and on the ground. And as I'm realizing what this is, I happened to look at the top of the hill, and there was a cloaked figure at the top of the hill. And I'm saying cloaked as in like a hooded cloak, and the hood came up and around the thing's face. And it was dark out. It was very, very, very dark, even with flashlight. And I didn't want to shine a flashlight on it. I was afraid that if I was to shine a flashlight on it, my instinct said, don't shine a flashlight, you'll draw attention to yourself. But as soon as I saw it, I kind of nudged my brother, and I pointed up, and I went, quiet. I went, look. And he looked, and so did his friend. When they looked, they saw what I saw. Travis grabbed me by my wrist. He grabbed my left wrist with his right hand. And remember, he's 6 foot tall. But he grabs me by my wrist. He's got a death grip on my wrist. And he says, run. I was running. I can promise you I was running. I was running. And as we're running back towards the car, he's pushing up branches over the top of his head. And they're swinging back down, and they're hitting me in the face. So Travis in the lead. I'm kind of behind him. And then directly behind me is his friend. And we are running. Like we're running. And as he's running through the woods, he's flipping branches out of his way, and they're swinging back down, and they're hitting me in the face. So at some point, I decide I don't want the branches hitting me in the face anymore. I'm tired of him flipping branches into my face. And I yanked my hand away from him. Well, I lost my balance, and I ended up running into a tree, face first. Well, as I hit the tree, I fell, and I landed on my butt. Well, his friend came up behind me and hooked his arms up under my armpits and lifted me up. And as I got on my feet, he smacked me in the back, and he said, run. So we're still moving, and we see this creek, and we cross the creek, and we see the car at the bottom of the hill, and we're running for this car. And I just about get to the car, and I happened to look over my shoulder, and this cloaked figure, person, or whatever, was standing by the creek. It didn't cross the creek. It wouldn't go any further than the creek. It never crossed it, never went any further over it. It never crossed the creek. So we get in the car and we go home. And I, of course, lock my doors. And I go look at myself in the mirror. I've split this lip completely open, like it just split open. And I've got blood all down my face. I got leaves in my hair. I've got blood down my shirt. They weren't laughing. They were talking about trying to figure out what it was. Now, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure it's a paranormal experience. But I do know this. It was probably the most scared I have ever been in my life. So if it was a prank, then they're just really good actors. I even asked them the next day. I said, was this some sort of weird, elaborate prank that you were putting on for me? And they said no. They said they were going to. They were going to take me to a cemetery and then leave me there, drive around for a little bit, and come back and get me. But that was not, that changed their mind. They said go to Swope Park instead. So I don't know. I don't know if this was an elaborate prank. I don't know if this was some weird paranormal experience. I don't know. We ran into something we shouldn't have seen. I don't know. To this day, I don't know. And my brother got mad at me about something, I don't know, 20 years ago. And hasn't spoke to me since. So I can't even ask him. Like, I used to call and leave messages on his leave voicemails for him and stuff, wishing, every year on his birthday, wishing him a happy birthday. And I always say, well, this is your sister. Just want to call you, wish you happy birthday. You know. If you want to talk to me about anything, you can call me at, and I'd always leave my number. I did this every year for like the first 10 years, and he never returned my calls, so I quit. I got tired of doing it. We haven't talked in 20 years. It hasn't been quite that long. His son Gabriel was either 15 or 16, and Gabriel was a baby, like a newborn, the last time I saw my brother. So it's been more like 15 years, 16 years that we haven't spoke. I don't know. I don't know. My mom claims she doesn't know. I don't believe her, but whatever. Anyhow, so no, I can't ask him. Because if we were still talking, and if this was a prank, I could probably get him to admit it at some point in our lives. He probably would have admitted it, but he has never admitted it up to the point we weren't speaking. And I would have figured at some point he would have. So I don't know. But that's probably the 3 scariest, maybe possible paranormal things that have ever happened to me. And again, if you believe in the paranormal and you don't, but you don't believe me, that's fine. If you don't believe in any of it, that's also fine. Maybe these stories are entertaining. Just maybe. Just maybe. But yeah, that's it. I just thought I'd come in here and tell those. I mean, it's Halloween night, so I figured, what the hell? I'll get out here and tell a couple stories. And they are true. And they happened to me. And I will never forget the one in Swope Park. I'm going to be an old lady in a nursing home, sitting around in a rocking chair, babbling about Swope Park. And years from now. So there you go. Anyway, that's it. So happy Halloween. I hope everybody out there is safe, but having a good time. I hope you enjoy yourself. Whatever you're doing. Remember, I love you. So happy birthday if I missed your birthday. Happy anniversary if I missed your anniversary. Got one coming up. You know the deal. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you think somebody else will like it, you share it with them. And if you want to know what's going on in my life, or if you want to be updated on stupid shit that I do, hit the subscribe notification, little bell. Ring, hit that little bell. Get that bell to ring, and it will notify you whenever I'm getting ready to do something stupid. So that's it. Just 3 quick little stories. Things that happen. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Well, y'all have a wonderful night, and I'm working on coming back tomorrow for the Lady Bird Lake thing. So, hopefully talk to you tomorrow.